WTBR-FM, Pittsfield.
Welcome to Ham on WTBR, the all-inclusive ham radio show for hams and non-hams alike. Be part of the show. Contact us on www.facebook.com/HamJamTV. And now the hosts of the show, Peter and Jessica. Ham on.
Happy New Year and good morning from Berkshire County.
Happy New Year and good morning, everybody.
This is the 2020 edition. The 2020 edition of Ham On. Big show today.
Yes.
We have a topic today.
Just think about it. It's the only year where everybody will see in 2020.
Unlike my co-host at the other side of the board here.
Hey, leave me alone. I just found out that I see in 2050 and I'm nearsighted and I needed glasses. As everybody could see on...
Yes, the people on PCTV can... The people on PCTV can see you, but the people on the radio can't see you.
For the people on the radio that can't see me, I have white and purple glasses now. Now I have glasses.
Anyway, happy New Year. I hope your New Year's Eve went well.
Hopefully it went well.
And here we are on New Year's Day.
I know ours went well.
Topic of the show today is continuous wave, a.k.a. Morse code. And there's a lot we're going to get to today. And then later on, Sean will be here. K2NEL will be on the phone, who is a prolific CW operator. And he'll be calling in to tell us about what's going on CW. But right now...
First day of the new year and 2 minutes into the show, you throw me under the bus.
A lot to do today.
Oh, of course. The Federal Communications Commission, or the FCC, posed heavy fines on two separate Boston area pirate radio operators who allegedly broadcast without the license. Well, I think if they found them and they find the people, it wasn't alleged that they actually went ahead and broadcast without a license. Don't you think?
Innocent till proven guilty, or guilty till proven innocent, or something like that.
It's innocent till proven guilty.
Alleged.
But in England, it's guilty until proven innocent. Go figure.
Thank you.
Both operators ignored repeated warnings and continued to broadcast and interfere a licensed radio station for years. Ati Pai, chairman for the agency, said in a video statement posted on YouTube, "This should serve as yet another warning that we will not stand by as the law is being broken." The first fine was levied on Garland Caesar, who operates Radio Tel Boston for apparent unlicensed and unlawful broadcasting. It was $453,015 according to the FCC. Holy crap. Big fine. That's a mortgage payment for some people. What the hell? Caesar used 3 separate broadcasting transmitters, which result in 3 separate violations of the law, according to the memo. In response, the FCC proposed imposing the statutory maximum forfeiture amount for every violation, which was the largest fine ever produced by the FCC against a pirate operation, according to the agency. Radio Town Boston simulcast on 3 unauthorized transmitters to 2 different frequencies, the FCC said. This could cause interference on Boston FM dials and interference with licensed communication and public service announcements. Ouch. So almost $500,000 later, he finally gets the idea you're not supposed to transmit illegally.
It's a revolution!
Yeah, baby, yeah!
89.7 WTBR FM, Pittsfield.
Just wanted to throw that in there. Yes, and Susie is here.
Hi.
Happy
Hi.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
How was your New Year's Eve?
It was quiet.
We all watched the ball drop in New York.
Absolutely.
Today's topic, in case you missed it, is CW, Morse code.
So excited.
A lot of good stuff. We got Sean that's calling in later. There was a song, I'm going to play this. This is kind of cool. This song was done at the Dayton Ham Fest in 1960.
Oh, really?
And it fits in with the topic today.
Oh, of course.
Of course, because I'm like that.
Yes.
I like
Weren't we
that.
talking about the Dayton Hamfest either last episode or the one before? I feel like that just came up.
We're always talking about the Dayton Ham Fest, which is actually in Xenia now.
Right.
The one before the Christmas show, yes.
Yeah. That came up.
This was done by Joyce Hahn.
I'm thinking about going. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
We'll discuss that in a minute. What was I doing? This is by Joyce Hahn. This is called something.
Something.
It's kind of a cute little song.
Nice.
And here we are on WTBR FM.
Da-di-da-di-da-da-di-da, da-di-da-di-da-da-di-da. What do you hear over the air? CQ serenade. So you don't know just what it means. Dust your shoes off, shake out your jeans. Get on your feet, jump to the beat of CQ serenade. CQ has gone and brought us a new rhythm that's swinging all the cats by the ear. Let's do ourselves a favor and get with them. You'll find you get the message, man, you'll hear it coming loud and clear. Doesn't matter what words you sing, just remember the beat's the thing. Get on the beam, carry the theme of CQ Serenade. Da-di-da-di-da-da-di-da, da-di-da-di-da-da-di-da. What do you hear over the air? CQ Serenade. Amateurs on the radio picked it up and then made it grow, spread it around, swelling the sound of CQ Serenade. From India, a call to the USA. I'm reading you, you're coming through fine. From Canada to France and the old UK, for when it comes to radio, the world's one great big party line. Tune in anywhere on the band, any corner of any land. Let's put it there, right on the air with CQ Serenade. Da-di-da-di-da-da-di-da, makes a fella feel la-di-da when he unbends, making you friends with CQ Serenade. It really doesn't matter at all, CQ, how smooth you make the signals combine. And anyone can answer the call, CQ, just make with a receiver and get on the CQ party line. Take your cue from the radio, even beatniks go do-de-do. It's everywhere. CQ Serenade.
Runs to
All right,
the local-
CQ Serenade by Jane Hahn, recorded back in the 1960s. In fact, 1960 at the Dayton Ham Fest. So we're talking about CW and Morse code.
We are.
So for the non-hams that listen to the broadcast, what is CW? I bet you know.
Yes, I do. Hold on. For the non-hams, I want to know, what are we talking about? What is CW? What is Morse code? Morse code is a simple form of transmission which is found virtually all over the FM or RF bands for a variety of uses. The most common use of this is call sign beacons for both amateur and military operations. In addition to military and some amateur radio use, there are any number of number stations that send cut numbers using CW. In addition, the Russians have been using this mode for years for their military, including their Bear net used by their Air Force, as well as the single lane letter HF beacons, SL-HFB. The actual purpose of which is not fully understood. The Israelis use this mode for years for station 4XZ, or Z, I guess, would be.
Yeah.
CW continuous wave uses simple off-key modulating. Whatever modulating.
Phase shift keying. We'll try to get into that a little bit, but we have to get all technical with it. So, the HF beacons, which you talked about, is the best form of propagation. They are low power beacons. Every band has one, and for us, most of us don't believe in the propagation reports that we get on the internet. What you do is you tune into these beacons.
Yeah.
If you can hear the beacon, it broadcasts its call sign in Morse code.
Oh.
So if you can hear the beacon, you have an opening.
Oh, you mean like that little red light on the tower that beeps?
No.
That
Well,
blinks?
yeah. The red lights on the tower, yes, they actually, like the one in Albany, when WABY was up, they had their tower up, and their little red light would blink WABY in Morse code.
Oh,
But this is
cool.
this is a little radio that's in somebody's house, runs on 25 watts. And if you tune in, there's specific frequencies the beacons are on. So if you tune into the frequency and you can hear the beacon, that band is open.
Oh, cool.
All the bands have them.
Awesome.
Awesome. I know.
That is freaking
And
cool.
there's a list up on the internet. You can search the list for the HF beacons. And that's usually somebody's best way, because I watch the solar propagation reports, and they say that some bands aren't open, and you go to tune into the beacons and the bands are open. So the closest one to here is either Texas or New Jersey.
So
So
what, propagation
Yeah, if you go on
is sucking again?
Well, we've got a couple of sunspots in play, so propagation is not too bad. But this is the best way to check propagation. Go on the band you want to get, 20,
you mean
40,
you guys-
10, whatever. Dial into the beacon frequency, and if you can hear the beacon at 25 watts at your location, band is open.
Oh, you mean you guys actually have sunspots this time?
We have a couple of sunspots cycle that are just showing up on for cycle 25. So propagation
Oh, holy
is
sugar waffles.
propagation's working its way up.
So Peter, do you transmit in CW? Do you have a key?
He
I
has
don't-
a key.
I have a key.
Okay.
I
has
have
a
a
key.
key. I can transmit 5 words a week. I do have a key. I am practicing Morse code.
I think yeah, I think it would take an incredible amount of skill and practice
it just takes more patience than I have.
Yeah.
And more time than I have.
Do you have one of those keys that codes faster?
The paddles? No, I just have the regular and old.
We got to bring it in to show.
Old
But it's
old 1940, well, it's like 1940s, but it's an old Navy key.
Oh, cool.
And
about like that.
Yay big.
About
a big.
Yay
big and
8 inches looks like.
About
Perhaps?
say about 6 at the most.
Nice.
You can plug it into his radio, and paddle is like that big around, like a quarter.
Huh.
And
so it's heavy duty.
Yeah. It's really freaking heavy too. It's like almost about 2 pounds.
Right. So there are other types of keys that key faster than something like that.
And when Sean calls,
Right.
You can pose, because Sean's got both the bugs and the what it's called a bug, the bugs and the straight key.
Nice.
I
Okay.
got a straight key.
Good.
He
In fact, he's trying to call in, so I'm trying to stall over at this part of the time.
Oh, I see.
So here's a question I'm going to pose, and we can come back to this a little bit after the commercial break.
Okay.
Is who can name any CW you've ever heard in TVs, films, or otherwise?
I mean, I feel like I've seen a lot of them, and I don't remember any of them.
I have one.
You have one? Are you
I
going to
have
jump in
one.
now and say it, or yeah?
No,
Okay.
we're gonna save it.
We're getting ready to go to
And the thing is, with the CW, I just found something really cool out, which is
What's that, Jessica?
and actually it goes back to my anime, which is pretty funny. The average human heart continuously beats the names of the original 151 Pokemon in Morse code from the moment you're born until the moment you have died.
Okay.
All right, so
Which
Nice.
Is,
I
which
love
is
that.
Weird.
Actually, no, I really like that.
Somebody actually went ahead and took the sound of your heart beating from the moment somebody was born to the moment they have passed, and noticed that it goes ahead and it continuously redoes.
all right, so
the names of the Pokemon.
I posed the question. We're going to go to commercial
And
because
that's a lot of
Sean's
Pokemon.
on the line. He'll be with us here in a few minutes. He's actually listening to the show right now. I posed the question, CW in media. So think about that, and we'll come back after commercial, and I'll tell you and play just a little bit of clip before we go to Sean. So, Sean, I know you're listening on the show. Just hang on. We'll get to you in a few minutes.
You're listening to Ham On and WTBR.
Read my lips.
Are you listening to me? What do you want to do with your life? I want to rock.
WTBR.
In the early hours after the tsunami, it was ham radio that was on the air, saving lives. When Florida was ripped by hurricanes, the hams were there. In the critical moments after the attack of 9/11, it was the hams who coordinated emergency messages. When disasters strike, the hams are ready. Ham radio works when other communications don't. To learn how you can become a ham radio operator, call the ARRL, the National Association for Amateur Radio, at 1-800-326-3942.
This is Paul Stanley from KISS for RAD, recording artists, actors, and athletes against drunk driving. Some of us work months producing a CD, but in less time than it takes to play it, someone will be killed in an alcohol-related crash. So please don't drive when you've been drinking. Plan ahead. Arrange a designated driver who won't drink. Remember, friends don't let friends drive drunk.
A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world where children don't play, or dream, or imagine.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children, because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Call 1-800-931-0800 or log on to stjude.org.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed.
And welcome back to Ham On WTBR FM. Our topic
Welcome back,
is
everybody.
Morse code. And our guest, who was on the phone early, but we'll get him in here, Sean Mooney, K2NEL, who is very prolific in Morse code. Sean, welcome to WTBR FM.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, hey,
Hello,
Sean.
Nice to see you again, bud.
So yeah, well, it's been a while since we've seen you, but at least nice to have you on the air here. So I don't know if you were listening, but we're gonna get to you in just a minute. But we wanted to bring you online for this. Who can name some media, TV, movie, or etc.? We'll pass it around the room here.
I think Jess had something. I don't really remember anything.
Well, in case Sean didn't hear it, to has CW in the process. So Jess, go ahead.
I have one, and it was a Walt Disney film, and it was The Rescuers Down Under.
Okay.
When the main character of the movie was abducted, which was Cody, this little mouse went ahead and ran to his local ham mouse, and went ahead and made it all the way there and told him a boy has been kidnapped, and to send an SOS.
Nice.
He went ahead and got on his little ham radio setup and his little paddle, and he went ahead and put out Rescue Aid Society, SOS, boy kidnapped, in Morse code.
Nice.
And it was the first and probably the only time I've actually seen in a Walt Disney cartoon that a
referencing that kind of technology.
Exactly.
Yes.
Had actually went ahead and did CW, and the thing is, they followed the code all the way to Hawaii, and then used digital to pass.
In the movie?
In the movie, yes. Used digital coding from computer to pass it to the Rescue Aid Society.
Okay, so
that was about it.
You have anything?
I don't, Peter.
Sean, Sean, do you have anything?
Is anybody familiar with the movie Interstellar? It's a Christopher Nolan movie.
Oh, amazing! Of course.
I think so.
I've seen that a couple times. That's a good one.
Not too old. I studied that movie a couple years ago.
Really?
And the daughter in the film, I won't get too much into the film because it gets really complicated. But essentially, the daughter at one point goes into the fourth dimension and talks to herself back in the third dimension, and she taps on the bookshelf with Morse code.
That's right.
I always thought that was cool.
That's right.
Right. I remember that. I have a list real
Freaking
quick
awesome,
here.
Actually.
Independence Day.
Okay.
Yes.
When they took the ships down because the aliens had blocked their form of communications with the satellites, they tapped it out in Morse code. MASH over several episodes. Whenever radar would send a telegram.
Okay.
And then the last episode, I think, was on a couple nights ago when they were doing the bris.
Oh yeah, when they were doing the bris.
And they had the guy that was going to do the bris online by code. The beginning of Strawberry Fields by the Beatles. If you listen real close, you'll hear Morse code. The HF beacons, which we talked about, which I'm seeing Sean can talk about a little bit in a little while.
Yeah.
The ending scene of the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
When
they're in the pool.
Oh yes.
When they do the RKO thing, because that was the RKO was an old pictures group, and it turned into Paramount Pictures, or RKO turned into Desi Lou turned into Paramount. And on Jay Leno, a few years ago when he was there, they had a Morse code person and a texter, cell phone texter on. And they all sent the same text.
Okay.
And the guy texting it and the guy tapping it out, the guy in Morse code went faster.
Holy crap.
So I'm going to do this thing real quick here, because there was also on a Stooges, Three Stooges thing. I want to play a little clip, and then we will go to Sean, and we will talk to Sean. So we will be back in just a second.
Shortwave, take it down, quick.
What's it say?
Ah, shut up.
What'd that mean?
You too?
Okay, that was that. So
Okay,
we
that
have
was
on the
good.
phone Sean Mooney, K2NEL, who confused me kind of when he changed his call sign, but officially here on WTBR FM. So Sean, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thanks again for having me here. My name is Sean. I think Peter just went over that. I'm 23 years old, and I am a graduate student at the Sage Colleges. I'm working there, but I've been involved in ham radio it'll be 3 years, actually, the beginning of March, that I got my license. And I got my license because when I got my physics degree from Hudson Valley, I had discovered that Morse code is pretty cool. And I had learned a little bit of it because my cousins were in Boy Scouts when I was growing up. So I learned it so I could talk to them, which was always really fun. We used to have conversations across the basement. And that pretty much started that. I didn't learn about amateur radio again until I got to college, unfortunately. Not sure how it managed to slip me for all the years, but I never discovered it. And one evening when I was taking night classes, a bunch of the EMT trainees came in and were doing dispatch training, and they had all joined the ham club. I was like, "What's the ham club?" They were like, "Oh, you can get your amateur radio license." I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." And that pretty much got the ball rolling. I got my tech in March of 2017. I got my general a little bit after that, and I'm absolutely obsessed with Morse code. And that's pretty much my journey so far.
Nice.
And I've been wanting to ask you this question. I think we talked off air about this. You were actually working for a police dispatch there in New York.
So I did a program, and one of the colleges sponsors it, but you can basically go in and observe different dispatch departments and go in and sit in and do some training with them. And you can't, until you get to a certain point, you can't interact with the first responders, but for a long time I got to sit and listen and learn about radio communications in a very professional and very strict setting. And that's where I base a lot of my personal operating skills on is what I learned while I was doing that program. And I took the test, and I never heard anything, so I kind of moved on. But that helped me a lot, actually, just in self-discipline and as far as just acting on air and using etiquette to form proper communications.
Absolutely. What an incredible opportunity.
So in this world of no code, texts and extras, and I think, you're an extra now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congrats.
What would possess, well, I wouldn't say what would possess, but what made you decide that Morse code was the way to go in the world of, and this is brought up all the time, where no code text, no code extras, no code generals. What made you to get deeply into one of the oldest, if not the oldest, forms of communication?
That's a really good question. I guess I would base my answer off of the fact that I have discovered and joined into the ham radio community as a person that had never been required to know Morse code. So I don't have that, I guess, former thought of, I have to know Morse code to be a ham operator. So I have joined in, after that whole thing. So my perspective is there are people that seem to, I guess, kind of shun Morse code for some reason.
On what grounds, though?
Just because I've heard people that don't like it because they simply just don't want to learn it, which is totally okay.
Sure.
And you don't have to learn Morse code.
Right.
But
it's not required.
Right. No, it's not required. But simply because it's not required doesn't mean that people shouldn't have an interest in it.
Yeah.
So even though it wasn't required when I was taking the licenses and taking exams and whatnot, it's all over the manuals, which is great. And basically, it was like, oh, okay, well, why was this required at one point. What is the benefit of Morse code? There must have been a benefit, at one point in time that made people decide, okay, everybody should learn this.
Right. It was a requirement of older licenses, correct?
Yeah, we had.
Exactly.
Marcia was here. She had to take Morse code, KW1U, KB1LRL. He had to take Morse code. So, yeah, the older licensees had to take the code, but now, like our generations and Sean's generation, we don't need the code anymore. We learn it on our own. Hence, Sean, you're what?
Out of interest.
How many words per minute, Sean?
Well, it depends what I'm doing. If I'm in a net, like a traffic net, they usually run at about 18 words a minute, and I'm very comfortable there. That's as far as passing traffic and information, that's a great speed. Most operators can accommodate that. I hang her up to, let's see, if I'm rag chewing means just having a casual conversation with another operator.
Right.
I hang between 25 and 30 words a minute. And if I'm contesting, I hang out between 35 and 40. Generally, I hang out at 30. I don't find that going too far beyond 35 words a minute really benefits me in any way. I don't, you get going too fast to a point where you're going to start limiting yourself as to who's going to be able to reply to you.
Right.
Now, it's funny you mentioned traffic nets because we've been talking a lot about the phone nets, the Western Mass Traffic Net, the First Region Net on the HF, but there's also CW traffic nets. You want to tell us a little bit about the CW traffic nets?
Sure. And I'm actually, as far as doing CW activities on the air, I'm probably the newest to traffic nets. But as to the extent of my knowledge,
what's your experience?
So I basically started listening around the top end of the 80-meter band, and between 3,560 and 3,570, you will hear quite a few local region nets and like statewide nets. For example, the New York State traffic net meets on 3,569 megahertz at 1900 local time, which would be 7 p.m. And we include two Canadian regions as well, because the Canadian traffic system is no longer. So we've incorporated them into the New York northern section end. But
nice, that makes sense.
We handle, yeah, exactly. And I'm sure Peter has explained nets on the show, but the bonuses of
perhaps ad nauseum. Yeah.
Yeah, nets are
which
great.
Which is good. Yeah.
I like it. It's good to do radio in a structured setting.
I agree.
But anyway,
I agree. I appreciate and value that as well.
Yeah, exactly. But using oops, sorry.
Go ahead.
No problem. I'm sorry. I think there's a slight delay with my cell phone. But using the CW on a traffic net like that, it enables instant feedback. So if we're running traffic and we're passing a message and somebody needs a correction, most of the operators use QSK, which is what we call full break-in, which is if you tap the key, it automatically transmits and snaps back to receive within a millisecond. So if you are sending in between each character that you're sending, you will hear the other station or static. You'll hear your received noise. And if you've missed or created an error or you've copied something wrong from the station you're receiving from, you can just tap your key immediately, and then that station immediately knows that they need to go back and correct an issue there, that you've missed something, which you can't do in phone. With phone, you would normally have to wait to the end of the transmission and then go back and do your corrections.
Wow.
And the other emphasis with CW in passing traffic is the use of Q codes, which you really don't use in phone to do too much. But there's a significant emphasis, on Q codes and CW traffic nets, simply because trying to relay a message can be very cumbersome, particularly if it's, I can't copy a station, something like that. So if you can't copy a station, you would, QNP and then the station. Let's say you can't copy the net control station, you could say QNP NCS. and then that answers the question basically as quickly as possible.
I guess we have questions from the group, so we'll go to Jesse.
Sure.
You had your hand up, and then we'll go to Susie because I know she has a question about the different keys.
That's what I was going to ask, so two birds, one stone here. What is the difference between a straight keypad and a bug there, Sean?
Okay. So the straight key is fully manual. And if you can picture kind of a seesaw, that's basically what you're doing. So you're pushing down on one end of the key, you're making contact and closing a switch. When you pick your hand back up off the key, you are releasing the contact and opening the switch. When you close the switch, that's what creates the signal to your transceiver to send CW or to transmit a signal. The bug is doing the same exact thing, except it's flipped vertically. So if you take your palm and hold it flat on the table and then rotate it so you are lying on your, the side of your pinky, it's the same motion, except this time the DA is done manually, the same as the straight key, by pushing towards the left, and this makes contact with the switch on that side. And if you were to pull the same thing, it pivots in two directions. It would send a piece of metal flapping rather quickly. I can't really describe the motion, but it basically creates a vibration, and that taps another contact very quickly. So you would push for DA and you would pull for DIT, and the action of basically the rocking motion of the arm creates a vibration and makes dits. So bugs send manual dits automatically. It's kind of weird to think of it like that, but a bug is semi-automatic. So it sends dits automatically, but your DAWs are still manual like a straight key. Straight key is completely manual. You are responsible for moving your hand as fast as possible or as fast as you're comfortable going to make the tiny dit. The difference between a DIT and a DA.
Right, and because of the orientation, it wouldn't matter with a straight key if you were left or right-handed, but I imagine with a bug that would matter, right? There must be...
They do.
Yeah.
They do make left-handed bugs. As far as common occurrence, you don't see a whole lot of left-handed bugs. A lot of operators chose to do right-handed. I see a lot of benefits from left-handed operating, though, particularly if you are right-handed, because then you can write and send at the same time.
Oh, nice.
Which is a super nice ability.
Right.
If you're not head copying.
When you're receiving messages, just as far as your experience, do you write them down, or can you just translate on the fly?
So I head copy. I translate right on the fly, and I found it easier to do that for some reason. I never really wrote anything down. The only time I will write stuff down is if I am taking traffic from a net. But usually, if it's at 18 words a minute, I don't have a problem keeping up, with a pencil. I just found over time that writing everything that I was receiving down was just one extra thing to do. So I kind of stopped. I just kind of dropped the pencil one day.
Sure, sure. You were ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes time. I mean, that took me years.
Years, right? That was the other question.
That means you have to have
so complicated.
That means you have to have one really good photographic memory to remember who you talked to and what they had said.
Maybe.
So yeah, I mean, over time, it kind of you develop. I don't want to call it syntax because it is a language, but it isn't a language. But you develop a certain reflex, and all of a sudden you're just hearing words and sounds, and so you start to develop a conversational sense to it. So you remember who you're talking to. And a great way to practice that is to actually do CW nets, because there's, on a good day, 10 to 15 operators in that net, and everybody sounds the same because everybody's making the same beep noise. So you have to listen to call signs. You start to listen and figure out that everybody sends a little differently.
So cool.
There's people that use bugs.
Of course,
yeah, there's people that use bugs. There's people that use paddles. I tend to use the straight key. If I'm not going...
if you're not going too fast,
I try so hard to use a straight key because so unique between operators.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here just a little bit. Since you're into the manual CW stuff, what about the people like, I don't know, somebody in this room maybe who's assistant section traffic manager who uses the computer
Could that be Peter?
That might. Yeah, it might be. That uses the computer to send CW as a real CW operator with the straight keys and the bugs. What do we think about those people who use the computers to send them out? It's okay. You won't hurt my feelings.
No. Any CW I hear on the air makes me smile because that means there's CW on the air. Whether or not it's being sent by a computer is, and I know it is a rather large debate, it doesn't bother me really at all. My only hope is that doing that and sending Morse code and receiving Morse code in that fashion, my hope is that it just gives you the curiosity to learn and copy in your head and send manually. So no, it doesn't bother me at all. But I, as somebody who has experienced how much fun it is to send and receive Morse code with just a radio in a picnic blanket in the middle of a field, which I love to do. It's so much fun.
On top of Greylock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my
exactly.
introduction was on Field Day this year in New York State with Peter Franklin. It was so cool watching him do his thing.
You should watch Sean do it. It's amazing what this gentleman can do. I've seen Sean send CW, and it blows. I send 5 words a day. He can send 5 words in like 3 seconds.
Yeah, it's great to watch.
I'm going to put everybody on the spot, especially Sean. See how good everybody knows CW. When was it invented and by whom?
I can't say I know the answer to that.
Can I answer your question with a question?
Always.
Go ahead.
Always.
International Morse code or American Morse code?
He had to get technical on you.
Well,
no, good.
Good. According to this thing, it's just Morse code, basically. Just who first came up with it.
Well, it would be Samuel Morse. No, it isn't. Oh, okay.
Morse code was invented by an American called Samuel Finley Breese Morse. Yeah, Samuel Morse.
So he was right.
I threw him under the bus. 1791 to 1872. He was not only an inventor, but also a famous painter.
Yes. There's an interesting story behind that, too.
Go ahead if you want. Well, let's.
What's the story?
Hold on to your story. Let's hold to your story. You can tell Let's go to the commercial. Let's go to the commercial, and then Sean will come. We'll bring Sean back, and he can tell us the story about him. So hang on. We'll be right back to you, Sean, and we'll be right back here.
You're listening to Ham On WTBR.
If it rocks, it rocks. WTBR 89.7.
Is your little one safe inside your vehicle? Is the child seat installed properly? Is it the correct seat for your child? Hi, this is Sergeant Mark Madeline with the Pittsfield Police Department, reminding you to please keep your children safe. Follow the safety seat manufacturer's recommendations for height and weight, and check NHTSA's website or our Facebook page for recommendations. If you have a question or would like your seat installation checked, please contact our department at 413-448-9700, extension 575. Our officers are certified safety seat installers. Thank you. This message is brought to you by the Pittsfield Police Department in cooperation with WTBR.
There are many sounds in your daily life. Ones that make you smile. Ones that help you relax. And there are some sounds that can help save lives. Wireless emergency alerts, now on many mobile devices, use a unique sound and vibration to bring you critical information about emergencies in your area. With updates from local sources you know and trust, you can be in the know wherever you are. Learn more at ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world where children don't play, or dream, or imagine.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children. Because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Call 1-800-931-0800 or log on to stjude.org.
They're your friends. They're your neighbors. They're even famous entertainers. They're teachers.
Okay, class, settle down. Open your books.
They're scientists and astronauts. They're hams. They're 650,000 strong, and they're just like you. Earning your amateur radio license is easy. Just contact the American Radio Relay League at 1-800-326-3942.
Captain Kirk, there are Klingon soldiers on this station.
And welcome back to Ham On WTBR FM. Our topic is Morse code. And our guest is Sean Mooney, K2NEL. And before we went to the commercial break, I blew the trivia question. Anyway, you said that, Sean, you said you have a story. And you have a story, and then I guess Susie has a question for you after the story. So go ahead with your story.
Sure. It's just kind of an origin as to why Samuel Morse was motivated to create a communication method such as Morse code. And to reference this, there is a biography of Samuel Morse by the New York Times, authored by Mary Bellis, that I would recommend checking out. It's pretty cool if you can get a hold of it. It was authored in 2009. But Samuel Morse had basically been commissioned, I think it was 1825, by New York City to paint a portrait. My memory is not going back far enough to allow me to remember who he was supposed to be painting the portrait of, but I know he was painting a portrait. And he had left his wife to go paint the portrait. I believe she was fairly pregnant, like 8 months pregnant. And he
That's fairly pregnant.
Arrived in New York. Yeah, so she was due soon. And Morse had arrived in New York City and began the portrait and received a letter shortly thereafter that his wife was convalescent and that he needed to return home. And a day after that, he received another letter that she had already passed away.
Oh.
So he immediately left and went home and discovered that he had not even made it in time for her funeral, and she had already been buried. So he had spent the majority of his life thereafter working on Morse code and working on distance communication methods and theories. And there's a couple good podcasts about that as well that are also very interesting, but kind of a sad story. But
it's a very sad story. Which podcasts would you recommend?
Let me look it up here. I had it. Peter, you can keep going if you want.
All right, while he's looking it up, here's another kind of a test question. In 1844, Morse demonstrated the telegraph to the United States Congress using a now famous message. What was the message?
I don't know. I don't know what it is. Jess?
What hath God wrath?
There it
What
is.
hath God brought?
That was the message he sent to Congress.
Oh.
See,
nice.
Sean's really good with the CW stuff. I had to look this stuff up. I should have called him and just asked him the questions.
I'm sorry, I'm brain farting over here. I'm like,
So you had...
No.
So while he's looking up wherever he's looking up, you had a question there, Susie.
Well, it was more just wanted to chat about all of the different forms of transmission, whether it be by keys or through a computer. So how does transmitting Morse code through a computer work? I mean, does somebody actually type on a QWERTY keyboard and the program translates it into Morse? Really?
There's programs that do that. There's a program called FLDIGI, FLDIGI, which a lot of ham operators use for a mode called PSK31, which is a digital mode.
Okay.
And it'll also replicate RTTY, which is an older radio teletype form of communication. And those are called audio, I think, phase shift keying modes or pulse shift keying modes. I can't remember the exact technical term. But that program will also emulate the audio sound of CW. So the same mode you are using to send these digital audio signals to your radio, you can also send Morse code to. And you're exactly right. You are typing on a keyboard. You can also set up what they call macros, which are predetermined messages, which you can just quickly type a function key and go ahead and send that message out.
I see.
So that would be the audio version of keying your radio in CW. You can also buy what, and I'll just use a brand name because it's the only one I know off the top of my head, but it's called a Signal Link. I think the other one is called a WinKeyer. And those devices are basically USB electronic keyers, and they will automatically send text to CW to your rig by actually keying the CW circuit in your rig, which is the preferred method of sending CW. It sounds better. I think it's clearer.
Right.
But that's exactly right. Yep, you're typing on a keyboard.
Where would you most find computer transmission?
Like for CW?
Yeah.
I don't know that a lot of people contest with it. I think it's more of a casual exploration of modes that I hear people using computers with CW.
I see.
It's very inaccurate. It does not copy correctly. It misses characters a lot.
Oh, interesting.
They
I'm
freeze
glad I
and
asked.
send the wrong characters.
Right.
Stuff like that.
I see. So it's a little fraught as a technique or method.
Yeah, exactly. It's so refined. It's such a refined technology as just radio and operator as one, that throwing the computer into the mix, I think, kind of can make it a little more complicated.
So interesting.
Yeah, FL Digi is not the best source. I wanted to just change things up just a little bit and get this out. Anybody want to know what all the things that were a thing in 2019?
Sure.
Since this is the new year.
Sure.
I'll go through this quick. The Amazon rainforest fires.
Yeah.
The big thing,
That's
the
sad.
big non-thing that happened at Area 51. The storm area 51. Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
The first picture of a black hole. The Notre Dame Cathedral fire.
Yeah.
Okay,
scary.
Boomer.
Oh, dear God.
You can show those. Little Nas released the remix of Old Town Road with Billy Ray Cyrus.
That blew
The
up.
Christchurch Mosque terror attacks, Hurricane Dorian, the Keanu Reeves Renaissance. Greta Thunberg addresses the UN. The Joker movie, and ISIS leader Abdul Baki Bakakari is killed. The U.S. women's soccer team wins the World Cup and the Game of Thrones series finale.
Oh, dear God.
So, Sean, being a younger generation amateur radio operator and a CW, I almost said CD operator, and a CW operator, and the idea behind this show every week is to gear more people into getting into amateur radio and back into amateur radio. So what would you say to those people that kind of listen to this show and after 17 weeks figured out what we're actually about and still thinking about whether or not they want to do this or not?
Well, I think if you're thinking about, going to get your license or going to, renew your license, if you haven't been on the air in a while, you should absolutely go for it. There's all kinds of stuff to do. It's not just CW. There's phone, there's nets and all kinds of digital modes. And I know I just said the same thing twice, but within each mode, there's kind of, a hobby within a hobby. Within phone and CW, you can get into traffic nets, which are a lot of fun. CW itself, you can get into the art form of Morse code and being accurate and proficient in copying and sending. That's one of my favorite things to do when I'm not on the air, is practice.
Nice.
There's all kinds of digital modes. I'm not too into the digital stuff just because I work on computers 40 hours a week, but they're really cool. It's amazing how much information you can send in a simple 10 to 15 second transmission, and how little power you can actually use to do that.
Right.
I mean, for example, I mess around with a propagation experiment tool called Whisper, which is WSPR, and you can send a 2.5 watt transmission. Let's say I'm using 15 meters, and it'll get picked up in South Africa.
Wow.
It's absolutely insane.
Whisper.
Stuff like that.
And if you want to see Sean in action, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Sean, but if you want to see Sean in action, my Ham Cram classes from 2018 are still being broadcast on PCTV. And
Yes.
Sean was one of the teachers. In fact, when we got to the Morse code thing, I think he almost had the whole hour all to himself.
Oh, nice.
That was before I did. I joined actually a group called the CW Ops, and they had a program called the CW Academy, and that is what I did to kind of get my speed up, because I was stuck at 20 words per minute for about a year and a half until I did that. And it's basically like an 8-week course on Skype in which you meet with an instructor and 3 to 4 other students, and you all send Morse code back and forth to one another, and they give you homework, and
so fun.
that really motivated me to practice. So if anybody's thinking about learning Morse code, just whatever method gets you to practice, whatever method gets Morse code in your brain,
right,
go for it.
Go for it.
Nice.
You were the chosen one!
Really?
It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them! Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness!
Okay, yes, I have to put the Star Wars things in there.
Of course he does.
So, we got like 4 minutes left. So, in about a minute, Sean, thanks for being here. You were a
thank
great
you,
guest.
Sean.
Thank
And
you,
Happy
Sean.
New Year to you. Any final thoughts to the masses that listen to us on WTBR FM or on any number of podcast platforms that we have that we're on now?
Oh, I really hope that we've sparked an interest in ham radio. It's really great, and I hope to hear everybody listening on the air someday.
Nice.
And Peter, thank you. Peter and everybody, thank you so much for allowing me to be here, and I hope everybody has a really safe and happy New Year.
Right on. You too.
Not a problem.
Yeah,
Yes,
Thank
it
you
is.
for your
It
time.
was great having you in. Thank you, Sean. Sean, K2NEL, Happy New Year to you, and we will talk later on. And enjoy the rest of the morning and the rest of the day. That was Sean, K2NEL. And that was a good guess. So, what do we got here? Any questions, posers, or things from the group? We have a few minutes to.
Darn, I turn off my tablet. I don't have anything right now.
So, what about their CW there?
I mean, I think the whole thing is fascinating and complicated and
it's really cool. Me and Dad had seen him do contesting from Mountaintop of Greylock.
Oh, nice.
And,
when was that?
It was, I believe, September.
Oh, okay. So recently. Nice.
Had a the battery and his rig and his straight keyer, and he had put a wire antenna up around one of the trees there, and sitting at picnic table, just random, just tapping it right out, and I'm like, that is insane. The fact that he this little tiny setup, and he's sitting there trying to make contact on top of a mountain.
Sure. Well, I'm sure he was quite successful. Is that
he got a few of them, but some of them he couldn't really get to. So.
I see. Okay.
You can't win, Darth. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Yes.
So, let's see. What do we got next week? I don't know.
What's coming up next
I don't
week?
know. I haven't checked my calendar. I don't know what we got next week.
It's bound to be another interesting show.
And this is my co-host, people.
That's right. The master of ceremonies has lost his list.
And we've got about a minute here. So let's see. Next week.
Okay.
Next week we'll have
we'll be
N1LAH.
into 2020.
N1LAH.
Ralph Devlin, who is the net manager for the first region net.
Oh, cool.
Now, where is the first region net, Peter?
3948 kilohertz at 3 and 4:30 or 2 and 3:30 p.m. on 3948. So on behalf of Susie, Jesse, and myself, this has been the first show of Ham on 2020 on WTBR FM, and we will see you next week.
You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home.